Hello, welcome back. In today's video, I'm talking about the brand new Stronger With You Powerfully from Emporio Armani. This is an excellent fragrance, but I'm going to tell you why you definitely won't want to buy this and why you definitely will want to buy this. This is the brand new release in the Stronger With You lineup, Powerfully. We've not had one for a while, so this was a long time coming. I think the last one we had was a couple of weeks ago. And now we've got Powerfully, so this is supposed to be the version of Stronger With You that is the strongest and the longest lasting, so let's find out if it is. The notes we get in this one are cherry, mandarin, spices, lavender, chestnut, amberwood and vanilla. Oh, cherry, Stronger With You with cherry. Yes please, sign me up. That's what I thought when I first heard about this Stronger With You Powerfully. Yeah, let's talk about that cherry. All right, there's a little bit of cherry in this, but let me tell you what happened when I first unboxed this and sprayed it. I sprayed Powerfully on this hand and Parfum on this hand. I wanted to compare the two. I couldn't remember the notes. I didn't remember that this one had cherry in it at the time. I'd just forgotten. And I was smelling them side by side and I couldn't tell too much of a difference, really. I would say, if anything, there was maybe a little bit of extra sweet fruitiness up top on Powerfully, but other than that, there wasn't a lot of difference between the two fragrances. But that's the story with the Stronger With You fragrances, right? They have different things in them, they've got different names, but the differences between them is not big, shall we say. They don't tend to really lean into things that heavily with the different iterations of Stronger With You. They don't deviate from this sweet, woody, chestnut lavender. And this one doesn't either. So I was smelling Parfum, Powerfully side by side, pretty similar, couldn't really tell much of a difference between them. Then I decided to look at the note breakdown for Powerfully, and that's when I suddenly remembered, oh yeah, there's cherry in this. So I went back, smelling Powerfully, and I thought, maybe I am getting a little bit of cherry. But that might just be because I'd seen a big picture of a fat old cherry in a note breakdown, and then it's in your head, isn't it? And you're like, oh yeah, I am smelling that big red juicy cherry. I don't know about you, but when I know the notes of a fragrance before I smell a fragrance, knowing them influences me finding the note in there sometimes, especially when it's very subtle. And I feel like the cherry in this is really very subtle. This is not a big old cherry bomb of a fragrance, perfectly blended with that Stronger With You DNA. Now that will suit a lot of people because not everyone likes a big old juicy cherry in their fragrance. If you like just a subtle bit of cherry in the top, then you'll probably really enjoy the smell. But if you were hoping they'd gone hard on the cherry on this, then you might be a little bit disappointed. So there's not cherry in this fragrance because there's sort of a little bit of it in there, but it's certainly not a cherry forward scent.
If you love fragrance as much as I do, head over to my online store luxparfum.co.uk. You'll find my favourite brands plus brands you can't find anywhere else in the UK. Link is in the description.
Okay, so hopefully that's taken care of the cherry business on this one. If we forget about the cherry, this is a really good smelling fragrance, and like I said, it smelled pretty similar to Parfum, to Absolutely, to Intensely. There's not a lot between the differences in the Stronger With You fragrances. Into that lavender, very woody base, warm roasted chestnuts. It's a great smell. Many people love it, particularly for this time of year. As it dried down, it smelled very similar to Parfum to me, almost indistinguishable between the two. So if you already own Parfum or any of the other Stronger With You fragrances, then you'll have a pretty strong idea how this one smells. Tiny little bit of that dark fruitiness coming from the cherry in the top, but other than that, after the opening, it aligns pretty much with all the other Stronger With You fragrances that you can currently buy. In terms of its smell anyway, you'll notice that this one is called Powerfully, so we are hoping that this will be the most powerful version of Stronger With You, the biggest, the longest lasting, the most projecting. Is it all those things? I don't find, personally, that there is too much difference in terms of the strength, the powerfulness of this fragrance. Didn't seem to have a stronger projection to me compared to the Parfum, but what I will say is I think the longevity is a little bit more, because the morning after I'd sprayed Powerfully on this hand and Parfum on this hand, I woke up and I couldn't really smell the Parfum anymore, but I was still getting a little bit of Powerfully on the skin, but I can't really say whether that translates into performance. So whilst I could still smell it on my skin when I put my nose right up to my skin, I'm not sure if this was still projecting, if it was still noticeable as a fragrance. So the big question with any new flanker fragrance release is, if you own any any of the others? Do you need to own this? I would say if you don't own any of the other Stronger With You fragrances, then yeah, you probably definitely should get this because it's a superb smell. It is the Stronger With You DNA, as good as it can get, with that tiny little bit of subtle cherry in the top. So if you like a little bit of subtle cherry, then you're really going to enjoy this. But in terms of its performance, it's as good as any of the others, if not just that tiny little bit better in terms of longevity on the skin. But if you own any of the other Stronger With You fragrances, in particular Intensely, Absolutely, and the Parfum, and I don't think this is going to smell different enough, and I don't think the difference in performance is big enough to justify buying this if you already own those. Incidentally, I did test this next to Stronger With You Amber as well, because that's the one I'd had prior to this, Parfum, and then Amber, and then it was this one. And Amber is a little bit different to this and the Parfum. So if you only own Amber, I wouldn't say this is redundant. I think you could have Amber and Powerfully. If you don't own Amber, but you do own some of the others, then maybe Amber could be the one to go for if you're looking for a Stronger With You with a slightly bigger twist, because the difference between Absolutely, Intensely, Parfum, and Powerfully are much smaller compared to Amber, in my opinion. So the long and short of it is, if you own any of the other Stronger With You fragrances, you might not need to buy this one. So definitely smell it first to see if the difference for you is great enough to justify a purchase. If you don't own any of the other Stronger With You fragrances, then this could be the one to go for. So overall, I have to say it's a great release because it's a great smelling fragrance. Emporio Armani seem to know that this DNA is working, and I think that's why they're hesitant to move too far away from it, because they might take it into a territory where they lose that fan base. So for the time being, they seem to not be straying too far from that tried and tested lavender, sweet woods, and chestnut. But I would like to see future releases get a little bit more creative, take a little bit more of a risk, and let's see what they can come up with. We might stumble upon something fantastic, but who knows? I'm not sure we're going to see that, but I'd like to see that. Okay, that's it for this one. Just my initial thoughts on Powerfully. I've had this for a couple of days now, so I've had a couple of wearings. Maybe I'll feel differently when I've worn this for a few weeks, a few months, but let me know what your experience with Powerfully has been so far. If you've managed to pick this one up already, do you think the differences are great enough to justify a purchase, or does it smell too similar to the others to make it redundant? I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a like. It really helps. Subscribe if you haven't already, and if you do all that, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.